Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Draftee Daffy, released in 1945. It's the 449th in the series and it's directed by Bob Clampett. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 3 DVD set and on the Platinum Collection Volume 3 Blu-ray and DVD set. It's under copyright. You will not find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. My son is still on school holidays, so he's going to join me today in helping me get this review done. Yes, it's a World War II cartoon, but it's a safe one and there's nothing too crazy about it. So without further ado, here's my son, Jack.
I'm here. I'm excited.
You're excited? You gonna help me do this review?
Yep.
So Jack, tell everyone what happens in this cartoon short.
Daffy sees that the war is being won in Europe, acts all patriotic, but once he is informed that the man from the draft board wants to see him, he does his best to get away from him.
Yeah, so as far as World War II cartoons go, this one is actually one of the safer ones, and it's actually one of the last ones the studio did because this was released in 1945 where the war ended both in Europe and in the Pacific, but we'll go through that in just a moment. So in this review, you're first going to hear a re-edit of the original commentary I did with my good friends Blue Genocide and Steph Silly before I had to take that down. And after that, me and Jack are going to go through this short scene by scene to discuss all the references within. And then my good friend John, he wants to give his thoughts as he's a huge Bob Clampett fan as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. With me today are my good friends Blue Genocide and Steph Silly. Say hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
I'll just say like right now that the title card fonts with Daffy Duck made it look a lot like a Disney cartoon.
So Steph, like, when did you first see this cartoon?
Guess he forgot how he hit Hitler on the head with a mallet. I first saw it on the Golden Collection, Volume 3. That was my first exposure to it. It's on the third one, right?
It's one that you can freeze frame, especially this moment here where he's looking out and then he notices the little draft, the little draft man. You can see his like eyeball, like wow, that's just disturbing, absolutely disturbing. Can we just look at the design of this little draft man? Like, pay attention. First of all, that awesome shot, the perspective shot of that envelope being shoved in your face, kind of thing, but also his hat. If you watch this cartoon, definitely watch it once where you just look at his hat, how it just defies all the known physics.
This character always makes me think he's like the unloved child of Egghead and Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, it seems to have that weird design, but I thought it was a strange choice where
one character in the Foghorn Leghorn cartoons, Egghead Jr., or whatever his name was. That little chicken kid.
Wow, this guy kills me though. Like how he just builds an entire wall. And this is the kind of type of guy that only Clampett would do. I don't even think Tex would do something like that.
Oh, it's quite brilliant. It's also really bold of Clampett to make a cartoon about a character that doesn't want to fight for his country. So it seems like it's kind of weird after seeing all these ultra patriotic shorts that came before this.
So that was original commentary, which again I had to take down, but at least the highlights are there for you. But we're going to dive deeper into this short now. So Jack, are you ready to go through some of the references with me today?
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully Jack, you learned something too, because you thought this cartoon was funny, didn't you?
Yep. About how many stairs he has.
Yeah, and how crazy it was?
It was funny, at least.
Yeah, no, that's the main thing. Even if you don't know all of these references, hey, it's funny. And that's why the best Looney Tunes shorts are the ones that don't lean heavily on references that audiences today may not get. In fact, I dare say the only reference people will get from this short is World War II. That's probably the only thing they'll know about it. But anyway, so the short's premise, where Daffy is going to get a visit from the draft board, at the time the US had a draft, which made sense because they were in a war. They obviously needed people. It's kind of weird because you got Daffy, he's acting all patriotic and he's celebrating, hey, we're going to win this war. But then as soon as he gets a phone call saying the president's going to send him a letter and the little man from the draft board's going to see him, he automatically just slinks and he ends up going, no, I don't want to go to war, or he just wants to avoid conscription. And it's kind of weird because Daffy, in a few shorts like Daffy the Commando and Plain Daffy and a few others here and there, Daffy is patriotic. He's doing his duty for the United States, winning the good fight. But here, it's the total opposite. So the message for this short really is just to make fun of people who were avoiding conscription because they weren't being patriotic. But this little man from the draft board, Jack, does he remind you of another cartoon character from a different studio?
Droopy.
Droopy, huh? You've seen a few Droopy shorts, yeah?
He's good.
Yeah? Did you have one that you liked the most?
We're strangers.
Oh, you like the one where he has a twin brother, Droopy?
Yeah, he's very strong. Just grabs the stranger and just starts beating him up.
Ah, yeah, I like that one too. That's a really good one. But yeah, in this short, the little man from the draft board comes across like Droopy, where he just pops up at random spots. But keep in mind that Droopy, I think he only had just appeared in his first short by this point, where Tex Avery was directing at MGM. So it's not like Clampett was stealing anything. It's just a coincidence. But in hindsight, we can look at it and go, hey, it's kind of like Droopy, so there's that. But this little man from the draft board is actually based off a radio character. It's based off a character, Richard Q. Peavy from Fibber McGee and Molly. Gee, we never heard that name before in a Looney Tunes short in regards to references, but he actually has that catchphrase. Well, now I wouldn't say that. And you've already heard that in a few Clampett shorts by now, in the old grey hair.
Well, now, I wouldn't say that.
Gruesome Twosome.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
Bashful Buzzards.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
So it was something that I guess Clampett really enjoyed using. And here it's actually played as a theme because you've got the rule of 3 initially, and then, of course, they do it one last time at the end.
Well, now, I wouldn't say that. Well, now, I wouldn't say that. Well, now, No, you wouldn't say that. Well, now, I wouldn't say that.
But yeah, that's where all that comes from. Now, on one bit, we see a painting of General Douglas MacArthur, and we see a name on the bottom, Cornet Wood. And he was working in Clampett's unit at the time. He had worked for Disney, like on Snow White, but he left during the Disney strike, ended up in Clampett's unit, and then eventually became a layout artist for the McKimson unit. He's not a big name, I guess, in regards to the studio, but he's done some good work. So the timing of this short's release is interesting because I already mentioned before that a few months after this short was released, the war is won in Europe, and then a few months after that in the Pacific as well. So when this was made, this would have been made in 1944, around that time, where things were on the uptick in the war in Europe, but it was still seen as a lot more work had to be done. And it's my understanding that a few more war-related shorts were in the works, but of course, once they saw that the writing was on the wall for Nazi Germany, they just put a stop to all that and they just went back to regular production as much as humanly possible, of course. There was a bit of a backlog on certain things, especially in regards to Technicolor processing and that sort of thing. That's why 1945 has a very low amount of cartoons released, because there was a lot of things that were being prioritized for the war. But it was also released during the time where Bob Clampett ended up leaving the studio, or he was fired. It depends on which story you believe, but he did leave in 1945 either way. And it's my understanding that this one was the last short released while he was actually still at the studio. And one final reference before we go through the short, Jack, don't worry, we'll go through it from start to finish. But that little man from the draft board asking,
Is this trip really necessary, son?
Is this trip really necessary, son? After Daffy makes that phone call to go to North Pole for some reason. Like, why there? I don't know, but in any case, that is the whole thing about the government saying, hey, we really need the fuel for the soldiers in the war and for the important things at home. Do you really need to use fuel for any unnecessary trips? It was used in a few shorts around this time. In fact, it was even used in Baseball Bugs, even though that was released after the war finished, but it would have still been fresh in everyone's minds at that point anyway. So, Jack, let's take a look at this short from start to finish, and we'll see anything else that was missed. All right, so excited about this?
Yeah.
All right, so The short starts off with wonderful, patriotically coloured title cards, nothing too fancy, but he gets his point across. And we see the regular storyman for Clampett around this time, Lou Lilly, who's written some wonderful shorts for Clampett. And yes, Jack, I'm aware Lily is the name of your sister, spelled exactly the same way, I know. But we've got animation here by Rod Scribner, who is very prominent in this short, but of course we've got other animators as well. He did not do this single-handedly. But what does it say on this newspaper?
Hanks announced new victories on all war fronts. American victory.
So it looks like this paper, there's no parody. It looks like they just made those two headlines and that no newspaper would have headlines like that, but whatever, we're just nitpicking. But it looks like they just used another newspaper on the bottom, the Daily Journal. I'm not sure exactly which paper that is, and then they just put on top those two titles and see you later. So it's there to get its point across. Who cares? Right, Jack?
Yeah.
All right. But you're not here to talk about newspapers, Jack, are you? We're here to talk about the fun bit in the beginning.
Yes.
What do you think of the animation in the beginning?
Let's move. I like the old cartoons.
Well, there's an interesting reference. You see, what I like here is that you've got all these musical cues being played one after another in this, which I'll go through in just a sec. But for some reason, Daffy ends up doing a parody of Theodore Roosevelt, who was one of the US presidents and was pretty well known by this point. So he's very patriotic. He's going through all these patriotic songs. He's going through presidents. He's even referring to General Douglas MacArthur, which I already mentioned before, and that wonderful painting. I don't know if Cornette Wood actually did that painting himself, but either way, it looks pretty nice. Daffy's just pretending to shoot at the enemies. He's so patriotic, and then he gets a call saying that there's going to be a letter from the president. So it would have been someone from the draft board saying, hey, someone coming in for a visit. But let's have a look at some of those music cues that Daffy sung in the beginning. So you got Yankee Doodle, you've got also the Red, White and Blue. So pretty much, yeah, songs associated with the army at the time.
Oh, hooray for the red, white, and blue! A Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
But probably my favorite musical pun in this one would have to be You're in the Army Now, where yeah, he gets drafted, tries to get drafted, and of course that plays. So yeah, that's pretty hilarious there.
Howdy doody, son.
I love Daffy talking on the phone and just all the expressions on his face when he's just all excited that he's going to get a letter from the president until he gets that sinking feeling where, oh, it's actually going to be the man from the draft board. And he ends up screaming. And look at this crazy animation here. I believe that's Scribner. I mean, pretty much anything that's really crazy is Scribner. But what do you think, Jack? What do you think of this squash and stretch animation?
Looks like if you do squats and it's just like a one big cartoon.
It's just wild. And this is what Clampett's known for, just wild takes. But thankfully, he balances out all the wildness with some softer scenes by other animators too. And that's what makes a lot of this actually work. But I like how he's saying, you know, why couldn't it be you? And he points to the fish, and then he points to himself in the mirror as well, which is kind of weird. Of course, we get that wonderful dad joke thing saying, get a hold of yourself. And what does Daffy do, Jack?
Holds himself.
Yeah, so he does it literally. But wow, the animation acting alone is great. See, story-wise in this short, not really much happens. It's really just a very simple premise, and that's it. And Clampett just goes all out with the gags. This isn't a cheetah cartoon, in my opinion, but it's close, where he's not reusing animation from other cartoons, but he's just doing the simplest possible premise and just goes all out without going too crazy. So Daffy then slinks up to the window, and you're getting great animation acting, and looks over, and he sees
eye.
Yeah, what do you think of the look of that eye? I'm looking at the character's eyebrows. It just looks like charcoal on top.
Like crayons, and it's like squiggled it on.
Looks kind of like my eye, actually. I got blue eyes, so maybe that's kind of me.
Kind of. I don't know why cartoon characters have like such tiny eyes and like one tiny dot slapped on when it's like zoomed out.
And look at the hats. I just like the fact that the hat seems to have a life of its own on this little man from the draft board character. He just sits there, but doesn't quite sit on his head. I love the design of this character. It's just this force of nature, and yet he's just this little guy. It's great.
Yeah. It's very good. It's kind of similar to Trapeze.
We get more wonderful animation again. I think this part's Scribner as well, where he just slams the window down, but the window itself, the frame actually bends. So Clampett's not only exaggerating character animation, but he's also exaggerating the background elements in that animation.
I don't know why, but I always think that cartoon characters are just stronger than real life people. They can just like bend the windows when they slam it down.
It's funny that he's so strong in doing this, and yet, if he's so strong, why couldn't he just win the war at the time? But anyway, we're not going to think about these things, are we, Jack? Otherwise, we'd have no cartoon, right? Daffy is like, nope, I'm not going to be signed up to the draft board. So what does he do?
He literally grabs all the things that board them all up to the door and tries to hide from him.
But look at all the barbed wire. I mean, he's really gone all out here. Where did he get this barbed wire from?
He just put a lamp, his plant, a couch, a rug, books, a tiny lamp, a rug, again, a chair, and a coat hanger.
And if that's a great one to slow-mo, just how quick it all happens, you know? It takes 2 minutes for this short to really get into gear, and yet these moments are great. But the next bit reminds me of what Hanna-Barbera would do later on with their Flintstones and those sort of shorts, where he would just run through numerous hallways and stairs seeming like they're never ending. And of course, we just see Daffy's head with the rest of his body being like fireworks here. So really emphasizing that.
In one frame, he just looks like he has like a third beat because of his foot.
Yeah. So we all know what's going to happen here, but it's still funny anyway. So he thinks, yep, I've done all I can to get rid of this meek-looking character. He's not going to sign me up, but we all know what's going to happen. He's going to open the curtain, and who does he see?
The man from the draft board.
And he says, well, now, I wouldn't say that, which, again, the whole thing is it's a play on that character, but it also sets up a joke later on that I'll point out. But we get a funny little bit here where Daffy, for some reason, disguises himself. I don't know what he was trying to achieve there, but the man for the draft board looks the same as well.
How did he switch our hat?
I don't know. It's a weird joke. That's probably the only bit in the show which, yeah, it's okay.
And also, where did he get all that board from? And all those nails and the hammer?
Yeah, I love that, how he just does that. And we go one step further. So before, he was like fireworks, but now he's a literal lightning bolt.
It looks like a bird.
Like a bird lightning bolt. It's really, really cool. He's not a very good packer, but this one, look at the animation of Daffy and how loose it is, especially with the hands as well.
4 fingers, because 5 fingers are like way too hard.
Well, it just takes longer. That's all it is. But he packs up 2 suitcases. He then calls the travel agent and just hangs up on him, which I don't know how he thought the booking would be done that way. But anyway, but why North Pole? That'd give me a big chunk.
Oh, Transoceanic Airport? Give me a package of No, give me a one-way ticket to the North Pole, please.
But he turns into a lightning bolt again, goes down, and even looks like a lightning bolt. There's actually one really cool frame where he's actually stylized like a duck. It's really cool. But we know what's going to happen. The man from the draft board's there because we've set up this premise. We know that Daffy's going to be thwarted every single time.
Yes, so like still.
Exactly. So you have Daffy, he's animated so wildly, and yet this man for the draft board, he's animated so softly and barely even there.
How is that holding on his ear, even though the other one is just holding it? And
the glasses.
That part right there is supposed to hold it. But how is it holding it if it's not touching the ear?
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It
But
looks like it's just floating.
But yeah, the animation of the man from the draft board is very restrained, very minor compared to Daffy's wild animation. It's incredible. And he hands over the envelope saying, no, this is for you. And Daffy closes the door.
And just because it's like one big firework again.
And it makes this imprint of the guy from the draft board on the door, which I love that look. And it's like a doorknob on his forehead too, which is great. So Daffy goes down. We set up a bit where all of his belongings fall down. Which again, like I said, it sets things up. He hides in the wardrobe where, yes, we all know the man from the draft board's going to be there.
And he doesn't realize it's actually the man from the draft board, that he's telling the man from the draft board that he's running from the man from the draft board. And then he realizes the man in the closet is the man from the draft board.
So he escapes, closes the door. We reuse the same gag involving the door smashing onto him.
Yeah.
But where does this door come from?
How did he get that bomb?
Well, that's a cartoon, of course. But for me, the puzzling thing is, where's that door? And that's why I like Clampett shorts so much. A lot of the times when it comes to solving a story problem, he's like, you know what, just do a door opening in this random spot. Who cares?
In one frame, how can he get out of there even though his legs are through the door and he could be stuck in there? Dude, get out and return the bomb to Daffy.
So Daffy puts the bomb there, and everything goes backwards. So everything's reversed. So I guess, as I said before, it's kind of cheated because they just reversed the animation here. But anyway,
And just like sneaks around.
look at the shadow though. So it's right next to the wall, and the background in this scene is kind of interesting. The background in this scene, again, maybe it's a little bit of a cheated thing. It's actually painted on the wall. And this is the sort of thing Chuck Jones would do later on in the 1950s and that with the stylized modern stuff. But here, Clampett was already doing it. But again, I think it was just a bit of a cheat.
And just the man from the draft board just like comes up to him and he said, "You forgot this." And Daffy says, "Oh, thank you." And he just like waits for the bomb to explode up to him. And it explodes on him because he realizes he gets the bomb.
And Clampett tries something different. I mean, Clampett's known for his wild animated takes of characters maybe falling down and that. But in this case, we've got the animation of the man from the draft board, and it's still kind of restrained where we follow the eyeballs and even the glasses frame stretches out as well.
His eyes are that strong.
Yeah, we can only imagine the gruesome thing that Daffy's going through when falling down. I like the effect here. You know, the man from the draft board is actually a nice little guy. I like how they paint him as not a villain. It's just Daffy being silly that he should be serving his country because they're at war. So I like that added touch there. But again, he's going to say, well, now and then Daffy's like, no, don't say that. And Daffy's just going insane, going through walls and even into a safe.
And he just like locks the man from the draft board into the safe, and it does like a devil face, like with the grin, and he just like builds a brick wall, builds a bunch of wood frames, and he paints it all up and just puts a home sweet home for light on the door for some reason.
Yeah, he just goes overboard in that scene. I just like the fact that he's so powerful and he can build all these things so quickly, and yet he's so scared of a little war.
It just feels like he's just holding it. He runs up the stairs, grabs a firework on the wood plank, and it just lights it up. But it backfires, and then he goes into the ground over like 10,000 feet deep, and he just realizes he's in hell. But when he asks a devil, it turns out to be the man from the draft board.
Yeah, so the last gag, what I like that Clampett does in terms of timing is that a lot of the earlier gags were really quick, but the last one that he saves for, the extra big one, he really goes all out. So again, he locks him in a safe, he builds that wall, he goes to the fireworks and ends up in hell. And you'll notice that Daffy does not actually say hell, and that might have been a censorship thing where he wouldn't be allowed to say hell at that period of time.
Where am I? Hey, this place looks like... Hey, it is! I am in!
But the audiences knew what he was going to talk about, right? So, the man from the draft board, it just shows how determined Uncle Sam is to get these freeloaders, these bums, to do their patriotic duty and get off to war.
He just went to hell just to get away from the man from the draft board.
Yep, and he ends up, losing. So, there's that. So, we've spoken about this short long enough. My good friend John is now going to give his thoughts on the short. So, take it away, John.
Hey there, it's me, John, and today I want to give my quick thoughts on Draftee Daffy. I always love to revisit this short whenever I can, because it's one of my favorite Clampett Daffys. So, one of the first facts I want to mention is about how this short was one of the last war-themed cartoons, especially on its release date. I know that probably the short was already in production much earlier, possibly maybe late 1943, early 44, but mostly because it was released just at the end of the war. I think that the last ones to have someone of this theme later will be Fresh Airedale and Hollywood Ken and Quintin. About the short itself, the one thing that I really enjoy about this is the animation, mostly because of Clampett's unit at the time, with some strong animators, and you can see it on the entire short. From Daffy's movements, the reactions, and many of the posing in there. And one of my favorite cycles of animation in the short is the one of Daffy running while having some sparkle effects like if it was a rocket. Another thing is the little draft man. I really enjoyed that character. It reminds me a lot to Droopy. I also really like the ending where Daffy thinks he has finally get rid of the draft man. But no, the draft man is in there with him and will keep following him for eternity. Like it's the worst punishment he can have. Yeah, overall, Draftee Daffy is such a funny and enjoyable cartoon. And it's one of those Clampett Daffys that I don't know if many people talk about. I know a lot of people love to mention the Great Piggy Bank Robbery, but this short is also pretty great. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10, a really enjoyable Daffy short, and I highly recommend you all to give it a watch. And that's all I have to say, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you, John. So, Jack, this is the first time you saw this short. Do you think it's a great short, and what would you rank this one?
An 8.9 out of 10. It's funny, it's great, but sometimes the cartoon logic made no sense with the floating glasses thing, and also how he ran like a lot more sense than usual. And he just grabs all the things and just puts it in one place. And I was like, why? Why would you need a why if you've already placed all that furniture there?
I don't know, but look, I would rate this one 9 out of 10. I actually do really like this one. It's a very simple idea, and yeah, it's a product of its time because it's World War II, but Clampett does it so well here. It's a simple idea. It's nothing more than Daffy just getting away from the little man from the draft board. There was no consistency between the units, so it doesn't matter that he was a patriot in other shorts. So, yeah, this one, 9 out of 10. And I know a few of my friends are a bit more critical of this one, but I like it. I like this one. So, that will do it for this one. So, thank you, Jack, for helping me in this one. If you guys want to hear more from Jack, we can always do more. Just let me know in the comments what you thought. And, yeah, that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And until next time, take care.
Oh, well, anyway, I sure put it over on that dope from the draft board. Oh, well, now, I wouldn't say that.